versatility today.
Dondre is what's so wrong with Fields? Because I don't watch the Bears, but every time I see something about the Bears, I see Justin taking a QB run, 80 yards for a touchdown.
So yeah, man, let's talk about it. A lot of what's been putting out there these past couple of days are reports about interest from the Steelers, specifically Mike Tomlin, in Justin Fields. Talking about his affinity for Justin Fields, and looking like there is interest. Now, to what level, we don't know. Obviously, whenever you hear the name Justin Fields and Pittsburgh Steelers, you get everybody up in arms and they go crazy. And I understand it. But I think what we'll do, man, because I don't think me and you have ever done this talking Justin Fields specifically. Let's do this two ways. To start the convo, let's specifically talk about why would the team be interested in Justin Fields? Because clearly there's interest, right? So we can't just be like, oh, he sucks, he's trash, da-da-da-da. It's like, yo, clearly they like something about him. So even in the chat.
Or even just there could be a case for bringing him in.
Right, so it's like, we're going to do it two ways. The first part, though, let's make the case of why would we bring in Justin Fields? Why is Justin Fields an appealing option to the Steelers?
Okay.
You want to go first or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll say a few.
Okay.
High upside player, for sure. Don't think he's met his full potential in the Chicago Bears system. But at the same time, he's proven that he can play in the league. Again, to what level? We don't exactly know right now. There is uncertainty revolving around him. Brings a different dynamic to the offense compared to what you have on the roster right now in Kenny Pickett, and also what you've had on the roster at the quarterback spot because of Justin Fields' legs. Then he beat Michael Vick's record for rushing yards on the, what was it, 2 years? Was it 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. He put up crazy numbers on the ground. So that's a whole different dynamic. If he get his passing game improved even more, and I think he's improved it as time's gone on with him in the league, but I don't think it's completely there. I don't think it's where it needs to be. But to be able to improvise and make things happen with your legs and keep the chains moving, like that does count for something. I don't think. See, we go back and forth on this. I don't think it would cost anything crazy. It all depends on how you look at it. Are we giving him the 5th-year option when we trade for him? I feel like that's a little too much, but
because what that's through 25, right? 25 mil, something like that.
Yeah, I don't. I'm probably less concerned about the pick than as I am about the giving the dude a 5th-year option, sight unseen, with him being on the Steelers for 2024. Yeah, but I also think like a 2nd-round pick feels steep to me too, where you could be. Well, I guess we're getting into like why. I'm getting into.
We're gonna get to.
I'm getting into why you wouldn't, but at the same time, all right. So I'll finish it off by saying like I don't think it's going to be a crazy cost to get him if you believe in Justin Fields. If you really believe in him, and say like I think he could be the guy here. What's a 2nd or a 3rd-round pick then? If you really believe in that guy, but I don't know how the Steelers view him to that extent. Could you be interested and want to bring him in for competition, or do you actually feel like he could be the franchise?
Right. Because those are two very different levels of what you're willing to, give up on. You'll give up on you'll give up a 2nd-round pick if you feel like this guy has home run, be the franchise quarterback potential. You're not going to do that if you think he's at best competition, but more than likely number 2, QB2. It's like, I don't want to waste that pick on that. So
or you just have there's a uncertainty about him no matter what. Like he hasn't lived up to the hype completely in the league thus far. We're gonna bring him in. Is going to be competition. Could we believe it? Like, is that worth the pick that you're willing to give up? And I feel like any organization would feel right in thinking that way right now. Would be right in thinking that way because I don't know if Fields has proven that. But if behind the scenes you scouted Fields coming out, you know what the Bears were running on offense out there, and you're like, that just was never a good fit. But if we can get him in the right system, a la Arthur Smith, he could really be the guy. And then so if you think that 2nd and 3rd-round pick you ain't stressing over that much.
Okay. No, I like that. For me, man, in terms of why would I want to get Justin Fields, extremely explosive athlete. very, very raw talent, just in the sense of he can go 80 yards and score with his legs. We saw firsthand in the postseason what that does to your defense when the quarterback can pull it and just run like that, man. So he has that element. I think that he, to me, he's a better runner than Josh Allen. I think he's a more physical runner than Lamar, but I think Lamar is faster in open field. But I think Fields, in terms of his smoothness of running, I like his running better than even a Josh Allen. I think.
Can I say something real quick? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's crazy about Fields and his running ability in the pros is the opposite how I expected him to be coming out of Ohio State. I thought he was going to be a really good passer in the league, or not really more focused on that because he was at Ohio State.
I thought
he wasn't a scrambling quarterback.
Him and C.J. Stroud. I thought the way that C.J. Stroud plays now, I thought that's how he was going to play.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I thought that's how he was going to play.
But it's crazy. Yeah, Fields became, Mike Vick, Lamar Jackson-esque in these first few years.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just how bad the Bears system was and couldn't figure things out with Fields. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So to me, when I see the legs element, when I see that explosive nature, I always go back and I say, well, what separates the good from the elite guys? Well, we feel like all the good guys can throw, but the elite guys can throw and break your back with their legs, right? Or they can break your back with some other thing other than just throwing it. And it's like, well, he has this piece. We know for a fact his legs are elite today. That is no other thing added. That's there. I also know he has a strong arm. So in terms of my concerns with him passing, I look at it as more, if I could get somebody that can coach him to be more fundamentally sound and consistent, he has the tools to throw the ball at the NFL level, at a high level. He has a strong arm.
He's good touch, too.
Yeah, good touch. But to me, I just think that I look at it as, man, if I can get the right guy to actually get in your ear, and I don't know Justin Fields. I don't listen to his interviews, so I don't know if he's a football guy, if he's a Kyler Murray type of dude. But either way, it's like, man, if you believe that you can get him around some good coaching, and that will be the difference of raising his floor, you potentially got a franchise caliber quarterback. That was why he was drafted. That's part of even why it's a debate right now for the Bears of if they're going to keep him or move on and bring in Caleb Williams. Any other quarterback or the majority of these other quarterbacks, that's not even a conversation. But because of how talented Justin is, that's why it's there. I also look at the Bears organization as a whole, and they struggle. Whether we're talking the scheme, whether we're talking coaching staff, whether we're talking the personnel, the receivers, I'm looking at your Chase Claypool and DJ Moore, and it's like, all right, you're Cole Kmet, but it's a different type of personnel. It's a different type of vibe. But I'm saying to myself, man, what if this is a Deontay Johnson? This is a George Pickens now. This is a potentially a Pat Fryer move now. That feels a lot different to me. Maybe it's because I'm more familiar with these pieces, but I know for a fact I've seen Chase Claypool. I like GP and DJ over him. And he was one of his receivers. So when I think of that part also, I'm like, okay, I really, really like this. And then even the money element, right? If I can do it for a first rounder only, and obviously you got to pick up the $25 million for the 5th year option, I'm not tripping because of this. I'm only making this move if I truly believe he can come here and be the guy. I'm not giving up a first round pick if I don't think he can come here and realistically beat out Kenny. So to me, I'm saying I'm going to potentially get this dude for the next 2 years on his regular deal and that 5th year, $25 million year deal. So I got 2 realistic years before I got to break the bank. $25 million is on par with, I'm trying to think, is that might be the Geno deal. It's not the not the Danny Dimes. It's the Geno. I'm like, I can live with that as a risk on the front end because I do feel like you've proven a lot more, at least right now to me, that if I'm going to make this move, I'm making this because, you're coming here to beat out Kenny. And now that I got to guarantee this 5th year option, I'm going to get these 2 years before I got to decide if I'm going to give you this $100 million contract or not. That's kind of how I look at it also as a positive. But I'm only doing that if I truly believe he could be the guy. Because like we said, you're not trying to give up a first rounder or a second round pick for depth or for QB2. That ain't what you want. And that's part of also what we currently are dealing with, even with Kenny Pickett, because he's the first rounder. But like I said, I would say those are the reasons for me in terms of why I would bring him in. If you can have success to any level like he's had with everything that's been around him and with all of the negativity that whether it's talking about him specifically or his surrounding settings, It's like, man, this dude has still found a way to put up some pretty productive things at this level, regardless if we're saying it was when you were down 2 scores or if you were winning the game. It's like, man, we can't say that about everybody that plays this position at the NFL level. You at least have this guaranteed. We've seen these productions. We've seen whether it's with your legs or with your arm. We've already seen you produce. Now, can you do it to the highest level consistently in the most pressure situations? Well, we won't know until we get you in those situations. But I at least know you can make plays, regardless of if it's garbage time or not. You can make plays at this level. And that would be the other thing that I would say in terms of like why we would, if it were the Steelers, say why we want them, right? So,
well, yeah. I would even say too. I don't know if I hit on it or you hit on it, but just the fact he would be probably the best competition for Kenny you could bring in right now.
Yeah,
if you actually want to do a series, him or Mason, I would go back and forth. I'd maybe argue Mason, but if you can't get Mason, I mean Fields is the best guy. I'd say to bring in and to like really have this open competition. It's like quarterback spot up for grabs. He would be the best guy. He would be the guy I would feel most comfortable about beating out. I would Kenny, too. Versus any, a Tannehill, a Sam Darnold.
And low key, I would also feel a lot more comfortable in Kenny if Kenny beats him out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because I feel like you said with Tannehill or even with some of these other dudes we've named, it's like Sam Darnold, we're like, bro, we've already seen you fail. So it's like, is this really, him ascending, or is it just you being who we think you are?
Yeah, and Fields is a guy that you don't have to pay much for. He is in. You're giving up the draft pick, but in terms of the contract for the season,
and for the specific position,
he's in the realm of some of these other free agents like Mason Rudolph, a Tannehill. Now I think his contract's a little bit higher, but you get him. It's in the single digits. Yeah. You do got to give up the draft pick, but it's not like you're bringing in the Kirk Cousins, the Russell Wilson, where you're paying
35,
double digits, 20 million. So you're getting a Justin Fields who's got all this upside at the same price you'd be bringing in a dude that I just don't think would be as good of a competition. Yeah, like a Tannehill, like a Sam Darnold.
And I do agree with that.
Zach Wilson,
I don't
whoever.
think any of them dudes are as good competition as Justin Fields. I think in terms of like what I would feel the most confident in, if either one of those dudes won it, I do agree with those two specifically. Yeah.
So. Yeah, from my standpoint, I get what you're saying about the 5th-year option. I'm not a fan of giving him the 5th-year option, but that, again, is only thinking if, in your opinion, he's the guy.
Right.
He's the guy. And I don't feel good about that either, but I don't know how the organization would feel.
Yeah.
But no matter what, if you bring in Fields, you trade the pick, don't give him the 5th-year option. What are you giving up? Again, I don't know. Second, third, that's my take on what it's going to take for Fields. But you have this competition, this high-level competition between two guys you both believe in, have this upside, can potentially be the guy for you at the most important position. Like that's the case, I think. Like you're investing even more in the most important position on the football field.
Yeah. Now, that was, like I said, the positives of why we would want him, right? If we were the organization, what would be the reasoning behind it? I know everybody in the chat outside of Jacob Easton feels like
John Easton,
or I said Jacob Easton because I'm looking at Jacob Malacio talking about John Easton. Everybody else was able to give us some positive about Justin Fields. Jacob said he ain't seen nothing. He not said Jacob again. John said he ain't seen nothing. He just went right to the neck. He was like, nope, he's trash, he's bad. Just can't be nothing good. All right, so we are going to transition to some of, well, actually, let me read a couple of the positives real quick, though. Shout out to my man, John Easton, though. All right, shout out to John Easton. But the Matthew 415 says, you bring in Fields, he's the starter immediately. Toledo Turk Gang says, if they want a second, I'm all over it. Mikey says that a second or third, that has to be the price. But if it is, then he's good. If it's a first rounder, no way. Nathan Manco says, if we sign Justin Fields, Fields is going to start. Okay. Noah Hood says it wouldn't be a competition. He thinks Justin Fields will start immediately. I do think it would be a competition. I think Fields is more talented, but I don't think he's as consistent right now as Kenny. And if Kenny were to raise that part of his game, that is where I would want to see where Fields would go next. But that's what makes both of these dudes, when you're talking about them being here and why they low key would match up really well. That's part of it, but they are very different also in their styles.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. Okay. All right. Those some good good positives right there. Good positivities. Yes. So, and Big Mabe said Fields is a baby Lamar, just much more dynamic.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's heavy praise. Heavy praise. All
I
right.
think he's got potential to be a better passer. I think he's a more natural thrower of the football.
Yeah.
But Lamar's just flat out improved his pass. It ultimately comes down to what do you do on the field. Like I see more potential in Fields' passing game, but Lamar's just flat out improved his passing. Like you check the stats on that. Whereas still early with Fields.
Numbers, bro.
Yeah. But like you go side by side with them throwing, it's like you see that with Fields. It's like I think he throws the ball better than Lamar though.
Yeah.
But you still gotta complete passes and be more accurate.
Mm-hmm. So let's get to the negatives. You want to go first? When we go first?
Sure. I'll go first again.
You like going first? I noticed that about you, man. It's because Valentine's Day.
Nah.
You like to lead the dance. I see what's going on here. I see. All right, bro. It's cool, bro. Hey, you the point guard, man. You got it, bro.
I mean, the dude hasn't won to the extent that you would want a guy to win in the league. He's 3 years in, and we're making excuses for him a little bit. We're trying to talk ourselves into him potentially being a team's franchise. Now Kenny, he's 2 years in, year and a half based off like the total games played. So I would feel like after 3 years, like if we do roll with Kenny here after this third year, like we should know. Like we should know. So that's the frustrating thing about Fields is because he does have the flashes. We do see some signs with him, but at the same time, how often is it after 3 years that all of a sudden a dude goes to a new situation and becomes a franchise quarterback, becomes the guy? Like how often? I mean, I get there's outliers out there, but usually after 3, it's like Yeah. I'm even thinking back to his draft class. What? Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, him. I mean, he's second out of that group because Trevor Lawrence. I'd put Trevor Lawrence
Trevor's
one
been more consistent,
as the best quarterback out of that class right now. But he's probably 2. But
remember, Trevor got a playoff win too.
Yeah, it was a good playoff win too, and
come from behind, bro.
Yeah, almost. He actually did give the Chiefs a run for their money. I was going to say not almost.
Chiefs. You know how it goes.
Yeah, the
ran into the Chiefs.
The running back, the Jaguars running back, fumbled when they were in the red zone. They're about to make it a 1-score game. But other guys that you could bring up, like a Sam Darnold. After 3 years, it's like, dude, like you just know.
In terms of that 3-year mark, realistically, I mean, Josh Allen is probably the poster boy right now of the big jump because Lamar was already MVP in his 3rd year, wasn't he? He got it their 2nd year, being the starter.
Yeah, 2nd year. Yeah. Well, Josh
was still playing well though. I don't feel like Josh was ever to the Justin Fields like craziness, but I don't think he was also.
I thought his 3rd year was his year though. No, isn't the one that's the one where he had the 4,000 yards and stuff?
That's why I said he's the poster boy to me right now of that big 3rd year. We knew, all right, this is what it was. Like,
yeah, so Fields, now for Fields, we're talking 4th year.
Yeah, we're talking 4th, absolutely. Because it's like, who else outside of that one?
I guess you can make a case for Baker. Jump? But Fields has not been as good as what Baker was in Baker's first 3 years. Like, Baker was pretty decent his rookie year.
Baker was good. It's just Fields it got loud for Fields in Chicago. Where it started to becoming, we got expectations. We think you can be this. Really, when he broke Mike Vick's rushing record, it was like, whoa, okay, you're about to be the next up. In the arm, or not just the arm, it's just like everything hasn't been consistent enough. The development hasn't been enough, and that's part of why the question is what it is. But then you see how he finished last season, and that's why we are right here having this discussion and why Chicago was losing their mind trying to figure out, do we keep him or do we go to Caleb Williams? Because not even trying to be funny, but just think about if we had the number 1 pick right now with our current quarterback situation and Caleb Williams is on the board, would we be debating, would we be keeping Kenny Pickett or trading him? Or would we be like, Kenny, man, we appreciate you, but you either QB2 or we're going to holler at you. That's a testament to Justin Fields, bro. Through all the ups and downs, and that's why the conversation is even worth having, because it's like, we know how everybody's looking at Caleb Williams, bro. it's not a lot of quarterbacks that aren't proven already that you would be having these debates about would we even keep him over Caleb Williams. But because it's Justin Fields and what he brings, and even though it's been 3 years, it's like he's still young for the position. That's what makes it so intriguing, man.
Yeah, I get it. I don't think it should be conversations. I don't think it would be a conversation either way with Kenny or Fields versus Caleb Williams with either organization. But to your point, there actually are. Like, people are, questioning, wow, should we just keep Fields, trade the pick, et cetera, et cetera. And that actually goes to, I guess, my next point or my next thought is just, is he better than Kenny Pickett right now?
Right.
He's better than Kenny Pickett? Like, why do I want to trade potentially a second-round pick that I could use to bring in a CB2 across from JPJ and pair him with Porter and have this really nice secondary for the next, 5-6 years?
Yeah.
And, instead use that second-round pick to bring in Fields, and I don't even know if he's going to be better than a guy that we already have on our roster and invested a first-round pick in
Noah Hood
2 years ago.
Bringing up the total touchdown difference between Justin Fields and Kenny Pickett in terms of why he feels that Fields is better than
I get it.
Pickett,
Then I could talk about Kenny just flat out winning games, the lack of turnovers from Kenny Pickett too. Fields has been a turnover machine over these first 3 years. I think I don't know what the number is exactly, but it's up there. It's definitely up there. I know Kenny, you could probably say he's at a better situation around him here in Pittsburgh versus what Justin Fields has had in Chicago. But Kenny's also been in the league for only a year and a half. Fields, we have probably, 2.5?
2.5 years,
Yeah, we'll say 2.5 years if I'm going to be fair.
Yeah.
Of like a sample size of Fields up to this point. It's just one of those things. If I can bring back Mason Rudolph for whatever it is, X amount of money, don't have to trade anything, I think that's the better option than trading a pick for Fields, and then you got to worry about the fifth-year option stuff. Like, I'd just say bring in a dude where you're not giving up assets like that. And I think right now it's a conversation. I'd lean Mason Rudolph over Fields right now, just based off. I know it is based off those 4 games, but
now people
I've never seen Fields like
being younger also than Kenny and Mason.
Yeah, I mean that's a case for the positive for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely goes along with just the upside and all that. But I mean, Mason, just like that command and what he showed in like those last 4 games, like I'd take him over Fields right now. But
now, question: Mason's last 4, and we talk about Fields' last 5-6 games of the season. That's the big reason why the narrative shifted back to does Justin Fields stay in Chicago, was because how he also finished the season. So even though we put in a lot of that credit and praise on Mason, isn't it just as impressive what Justin Fields was able to do at the end of his season? Because that was my heart. I mean, that's kind of why I fell on it as well. I'm like, man, as much as I love what Mason did, I'm like, Justin Fields was cooking over there also at the end of the year, and that was why they finished where they finished, and why this convo about do you keep him versus Caleb is even happening, because of how he finished the season. Partly why we are even talking about Mason coming back now was because of how he finished the season.
Yeah, I can't argue that. I mean, that's why we are talking like this. I didn't watch all the Chicago Bears games, and this is what's going to potentially kill me this offseason before we even get like a month into it, is this Justin Fields talk. Like, do I really need to go back and watch every Justin Fields game now?
Low key, I swear.
Like, I do not want to do that.
I'm with you, bro.
I do not want to do that.
We on the same. I felt like today I literally had to cut on more Justin Fields, and I've already watched
I have
Justin.
zero
I watched
desire.
a couple of them games already. It was like, well, let me go back and rewatch another one. Maybe
I'll just give you. I'll give you my feeling anytime
Yeah.
I like. No joke. There was a point in time last year, middle of the season, where I said Bears games and Jets games are not allowed to be on TV because of how bad their offenses were. Now I get it, our offense wasn't guns blazing either, but like that's really how bad it was with the Bears. And a lot of times that I've seen with Justin Fields, like it's bad, bro. Like it's really bad. Some of the stats that we're talking about, they are garbage time. Like they are just like these inflated stats being thrown out there. There hasn't been a time where I watched Justin Fields and was like, yeah, he's in like this type of command that Mason Rudolph is. For those last 4 games that Mason was playing, I've never felt that way. And I'm even talking about like Fields whenever he had like those 4 touchdowns on like Thursday night. some of those dudes, they're just wide open. They're just sitting there wide open. It was cool. Like, they were good games, but what Mason did, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if Fields has shown that just yet.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I do. I think for me, I got a little bit different perspective because I always say to myself, man, if you can make a play, you can make a play. And if garbage time stats are so easy to come by, why don't our guys have great garbage time stats? You know what I mean? But at the same time, when I'm, thinking about this just Justin Fields dynamic, I do feel like if we are trying to go cheaper for competition, then get Mason Rudolph. I think we're trying to have a legitimate competition, then you're going to pay more for it, but you go get a Justin Fields. This kind of goes back to when we talk about players, right? Whether we talking free agency or the draft. The better the player, the more they cost because they're coming with a higher floor. Justin Fields, throughout his career, has been more productive than both Kenny and Mason. For whatever reasons, on paper, he's been the more productive player. So that's why he costs more. That's why we know whether you're trading for him, he's going to cost, and whoever you trade him to, they picking up an option that's also going to cost. Because to an extent, he's already proven a lot more than what Kenny or Mason has done. The big question is the finances. So I think this is when we come back to the whole dynamic of, is cheaper necessarily the better option? And I think that's what we all are kind of wrestling with right now.
I think it could be. That's right. My take.
And I think that's the debate.
I think Mason might be a better option right now over Justin Fields.
Because that's the debate.
I think that could be a smarter play.
But we're going to bet 4 games in terms of that sample size, in terms of the Mason dynamic, versus what we've seen from Justin Fields over a 3-year sample size. And that's the part that I'm sure Mr. Rooney, Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, they all having them internal conversations. They're looking at what Kenny has done and the variables surrounding him. Mason, the variables surrounding him. Justin Fields, the variables surrounding him. But at the end, I do feel like it's going to boil back to that. Low key, in-house hire, spend a little bit of money, get something that's a little bit more sexy, a little bit more proven, and really more splash worthy. We know how we felt about certain in-house hirings that we've made, in-house promotions. It's like, bro, this is cool. This is cheap, though. This is cool. It's familiar, but is it really nice, or is it just comfortable? And then it's like, well, man, they went and got that dude, and why don't we spend like that? They went and did that. That's a big move. We seen how that happens. Why we don't do that? I just think that we're in that phase right now where we can kind of change that narrative. We did with Arthur Smith. We've done it with Brian Flores. Why not do it again right here? Because those two, or at least with the first one with Brian Flores, we saw that worked. We're going to see with Arthur Smith, but I do feel like it should be an upgrade over what we just came from with Matt Canada. So I'm hoping this should be in the right direction. But the next part where it's like, okay, do we want to keep going back to what we've been doing where we stay in-house, where we kind of do the more cost-effective, cost-friendly version? Or do we spend a little bit more money? Yes, a little bit more exposure to negativity, but we also got a lot more exposure to something explosive happening as well. And that's kind of like where I'm stuck with, them two dudes like that, man.
Yeah, for me, I think the Fields case is his case over like Mason. Let's just say bringing in Mason versus bringing in Fields. I think his case is more predicated on the potential and upside versus what he's proven versus what Mason has proven up to this point. Because again, like up to the middle of last season, like Bears fans are like, yeah, Fields ain't even like this Badgett dude is better than Fields at this point. My only issue is this is the easiest guy to like move on from right now and go get Williams or whoever.
Only issue is this though. We were saying the same thing about Mason. We were saying the same thing about Mason at that point.
Yeah, but it wasn't based off his play up there. Like, we hadn't seen him in two and a half years.
So it was based off of his play because when we saw him 2.5 years ago, his play didn't look like the last 4 games. So that's my whole thing. It's like at both points in this season, Mason wasn't viewed as the guy. Mason is the recency part. He had the 4 games where he showed great play, very different than we had ever seen from him. But that's what I'm saying is the same thing what they're saying about Justin Fields at the end of the season over there.
I don't want to go back and watch Justin Fields games right now.
You know,
I mean, it was.
You know, that's what we're gonna have to do, bro.
Because what I want to say right now is like, I mean, it's all right. It's all right, but like,
you know, this one.
They didn't get back into the playoffs.
Yeah.
They still had losses.
Uh-huh.
That's what I remember. Like, it was good where they became a little bit of a story. It's like, all right, but it's still job didn't get done.
And look, we could minimize it like that. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna cut that tape on some more. I need to see a little more. I gotta see a little bit more because clearly the team is seeing something that's making them curious, and that's the part where it's like, what are y'all seeing? Because y'all clearly have seen enough of something.
That's the other question. I don't know if they are actually curious. We're getting reports thrown out there for sure. There is a case for it. I don't know what the internal dialogue is though. Behind the scenes, I don't. If they actually do want to get Fields, it's whatever. Like we said, there's a bunch of reasons why you do it.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of reasons. Is that what I would do? No, not necessarily. But I'm also not the GM. I'd sign Mason. I would just sign Mason. I think it's the simplest way to go about it, and maybe the most cost-effective way, and maybe just flat out the best way.
Respect
to go
respect.
about the quarterback position this offseason.